Welcome to Week in One. In the next half hour, we'll take a look at the stories that made headlines this week. I'm Andrea van Wyk. Inconsistent with the Constitution. That's how the High Court has described an agreement with the State Attorney's Office and Presidency to pay Jacob Zuma's legal fees. The court ruled the state has no obligation to support the former president. He must also return all the money paid to his lawyers since 2005. ENCA's Aldrin St-Pierre reports.
The request was approved by the Presidency based on advice by the State Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development as it then was.
13 years since that request, 24 court cases later, and at a cost of 16.7 million rand to taxpayers. That agreement has been declared unconstitutional.
Decisions taken by the Presidency and the State Attorney that the state would cover the legal costs of Mr. Zuma incurred in his personal capacity in the criminal prosecution instituted against him on or about 20th June 2005, 28 December 2007, and 16 March 2018 are declared invalid and are reviewable and set aside.
A full bench of the North Gauteng High Court says the decision led to former President Jacob Zuma litigating on the, quote, most luxurious scale. The case raises the issue of whether the public purse should be used for government officials' private civil and criminal legal matters. The court also rejected Zuma's argument that the state should foot his legal bills because the corruption charges are as a result of conduct carried out on behalf of the state. It's expected Zuma will appeal the judgment. This is a precedent-setting ruling in light of possible criminal cases against current and former cabinet ministers implicated in state capture. Aldrin St-Pierre, Pretoria.
Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu has questioned why government hasn't afforded Alex Boraine an official funeral. The deputy chairperson of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission died in Cape Town last week after a battle with cancer. He was 87. Boraine has been remembered for his role in helping end apartheid and for being at Tutu's side during harrowing testimonies at the TRC.
Saying goodbye to a friend and colleague, Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu and Alex Boraine guided South Africa through the painful Truth and Reconciliation process. And Tutu says it would have been appropriate for the state to officially pay tribute to Boraine.
It would have been fitting for our president to give Alex an official funeral. Our country owes Alex a great debt of gratitude.
The retired Archbishop says Boraine's anti-apartheid credentials and his active role at the TRC are understated.
I'm afraid if people were doling out congratulations and chose me to be the recipient, they were wrong. Very considerable credit must go to Alex.
Boraine's son Jeremy says the family is happy to have shared their father with South Africa and the rest of the world.
As a family, we struggled to share him with the world. For us, he was just Dad. But his life of service meant that we had to very often take a back seat. We all struggled with that to some degree.
Thursday's memorial service will be followed by a private family ceremony. Nesta Kivitz, Cape Town.
The former Soweto Scholar Patrol guard, who'd been accused of raping and sexually assaulting pupils, says he contemplated suicide. Johannes Molefe has been found not guilty. The father of 5 girls spoke exclusively to ENCA's Slindolo Masikane.
58-year-old Johannes Molefe has spent over a year in prison for crimes he's now been acquitted of. On Wednesday, He walked out of the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court a free man. The judge said he had no choice but to let Molefe go amid claims that his alleged victims' testimonies had been manipulated.
Angizange ngemuzwa nokumuzwa na umtoliki lo sisi lo beka umuntu omnyama ukhulume kayithuna mathi ba uMlefe ikoti inkantolo idona iqala lichithiwe ngathi ngiyaphupha kuba bekuduma umshini la endlebeni ngabzu.
Molefe is fearing for his safety. Some of the pupils' parents have suggested they could take the law into their own hands. Molefe has now found refuge in his sister's home.
Mhlawumbe kune mistake ijaji eyenzile abambe boxosha ijaji emsebenzini bangablame mina angithi akunane torrent mina ngikhiphile mina for ijaji ukuthi lingikhulumela lapho ngifuna ukukhohlisa mama ijaji lenza umsebenzi walufundele la msebenzi.
Molefe says life in prison was so difficult he considered suicide.
Accept mina ngoba ngitshela ukuthi ngakhala iviki lonke mina ngoba bengifuna alpirimi bengifuna ukuthi ngihlanganise nalomdongo vele ngidle ngishone once ngathi mara lento ngoba ngingayenzanga ethi ngimele ijaji.
But Molefe says he holds no grudges.
Ngibathanda kanjani yazi thele lento lena iqali yangokuyehla ngithema ngithandaza ngathi ngicela na uNkulunkulu mawufika enhlizweni yami ngithole ngikhulekile inhliziyo yami emhlophe nabo bonke abenzi bobubi akusibe ukuthi bebahlosile kokunye kuhamba nesatanism.
He hopes to get a job as a gardener so he can start over. Slinda Lomasigan in Soweto.
50 years, that's how long Mortimer Saunders will spend behind bars for the rape and murder of 3-year-old Courtney Peters. Saunders was sentenced in the Western Cape High Court this week. ENCA's Nadine Thron has more.
Mortimer Saunders poses a threat to the weakest and most vulnerable members of society, children. That's the finding of High Court Judge Babalwa Mantame. She's found Saunders showed no remorse for killing Courtney Peters, nor did he accept responsibility for her rape and premeditated murder.
So the fact that the offence was planned and not committed at the spur of the moment, lack of remorse, abuse of trust, abuse of a defenseless child, and prevalence of crimes committed serve as aggravating factors in this case.
There was joyful applause from the gallery when the judge made her ruling. Saunders' sentence of consecutive rather than concurrent life terms is almost unprecedented. It means he'll effectively spend 50 years behind bars. Courtney's mother, Juanita, is relieved the case is over.
Ek voel bly. Ek is gelukkig met die straf wat hy gekry het. Dit gaan wel my kind terugbring, maar ek voel tevrede met sy straf wat hy gekry het. As niks wat ek vir hom wil sê nie, as net baie vrae wat ek wil beantwoord gehad het van hom, maar ek sal dit mos nog nooit kry nie. Dat het so te sê, my familie het mekaar uitgeruk, want almal was lief vir Courtney.
She says she hopes the family will now finally be able to rebuild their lives. Nadine Theron, Cape Town.
The Vlakfontein family murder case has been postponed to next year. It's been more than a month since the bodies of 3 women and 4 children were discovered buried in shallow graves in their home. Ernest Mabaso confessed to the crimes, but claims his co-accused Fita Kupe forced him to rape and kill. ENC's Lindo Kuhle revisited the community.
This is the scene where the bodies were found. The 3 women and 4 children had been covered in sand. Despite the gruesome details, family members of the causers say they're grateful for the information coming out of court. They want to know how their loved ones spent their last hours alive, but revelations are traumatic.
It feels good to, okay, now we know, like, you understand? Yeah, so it's like, it's helping us. Maybe this is sharp, maybe.
The community is still reeling.
Because every time I refit mo, I can't bona bo makhelwane ba rona. Ha so ka accept hore ba
A close friend of Medat, Mbali Khoza, one of the victims, says she will forever miss her friend.
Ngife nje kakhulu endaweni nje sihanjelwe angazi ukuthi ngingabeka nje ngithini ngabo.
The two accused will be back in court on the 24th of January. They'll remain behind bars until then. Lindo Kuhle Xulu, Vlakfontein.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Coming up, Hlari Motsoeneng has launched his political party and he's gunning for the president.